Namaste, you're on the Nation at 5. I'm Anand Narasimhan and we start with details on this man who's the latest who's been arrested on this entire conversion racket that's being cracked down upon. It started with an Umar Gautam and his associate, went up to Salahuddin Sheikh and also a Hawala trader in Mumbai, and it's come back to this person, Maulana Kaleem Siddiqui, who's the head of the Global Peace Center. And he has been arrested, and the UP ATS has come out and very clearly said that he is involved in this racket and he's also received funding, which is illegal, illicit, to the tune of more than 1.5 crore rupees, which is used towards activities which are not above board, which are against the law, and that there was he has a role in this conversion racket. It's already raked up a political storm with multiple political reactions and those trying to turn apologists for those who are going against the will of the Constitution. But these are the details. It's the 11th arrest. It's a top Muslim cleric in Maulana Kaleem Siddiqui. It's the 11th arrest in this entire racket. The threads to Umar Gautam in Uttar Pradesh and Salahuddin in Gujarat are connected. The cops have connected the dots. It runs an organization, the Jamia Imam Waliullah in Meerut. He's also a member of the Global Peace Center. He's received 1.5 crore from Bahrain. Overall, the amount received by him is 3 crore rupees. He funded madrasas carrying out conversion activity, which the attempt or the intent was not to educate but to indoctrinate and to also induce and convert, targeting local youth via big promises, that is inducements. You're not allowed to do that. Application was filed for Siddiqui's remand and that has been accepted. So clearly it's a big crackdown. It will send political tremors and the ripples can be seen in terms of the reactions that have come through. But first, let's listen in to what the ADG Law and Order Uttar Pradesh, Prashant Kumar, had to say.
कि उत्तर प्रदेश के एटीएस ने 20 जून 2021 को अवैध धर्मांतरण के गिरोह को संचालित करने वाले कुछ लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया था। उमर गौतम और इसके साथियों को ब्रिटिश आधारित संस्था अल फदा ट्रस्ट से लगभग 57 करोड़ रुपए की फंडिंग की गई थी, जिसके खर्च का ब्यौरा अभियुक्तगण नहीं दे पाए थे।
ये तो गलत किया जा रहा है। देखिए, गलत किया है और गलत किया जा रहा है। ये तो बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट सिवाय यानी मुसलमानों को घेरने के, मुसलमानों को नुकसान पहुंचाने के दूसरा कोई काम नहीं है उन्हें।
11वीं गिरफ्तारी है मौलाना कलीम सिद्दीकी, जो इस्लामिक स्कॉलर के तौर पर भी जाने जाते हैं, और आरोप है कि करोड़ों की फंडिंग अवैध धर्मांतरण के लिए उनकी फंड में की जा रही थी।
देखिए, इस देश में एक धर्मांतरण की इंडस्ट्री चलाई जा रही है और जो उद्योग कांग्रेस के शासनकाल में या उसके सहयोगी दलों के शासनकाल में फलता फूलता रहा है, जिसमें निवेश अरब देश का होता है और काम करने वाले यहाँ के कथित रूप से मौलाना मौलवी होते हैं, वैसे ही ये कलीम साहब हैं। 11वीं गिरफ्तारी तो हुई है, मुझे लगता है आने वाले समय में अन्य गिरफ्तारियाँ भी होंगी। अवैध तरीके से धर्मांतरण करना न सिर्फ संविधान पर हमला है और देश की अस्मिता को तोड़ने का प्रयास है, बल्कि यह मानवता के खिलाफ एक जंग है। और इस तरह के अवैध काम को रोकने के लिए कोई मुहूर्त नहीं होता है। चुनाव के दिन भी यदि कोई धर्मांतरण करते हुए पाया जाएगा तो उसे गिरफ्तार किया जाएगा।
सो मोटो एटीएस गिरफ्तार करती है, तब इस पर यकीन नहीं किया जा सकता है। उत्तर प्रदेश की मौजूदा सरकार और प्रशासन पुलिस पे दबाव बनाए रहता है, पुलिस को ईमानदारी के साथ, सच्चाई के साथ काम नहीं करने देता, राजनीति करता, राजनीतिक फायदों के लिए इस तरीके के कदम उठाए जाते हैं।
Pranshu Mishra now joining us live. Pranshu, this is a very big arrest and it's a big move. The cops will not have made this move unless they had concrete proof. And although political voices and opposition is claiming vendetta or deliberate targeting, Maulana Kaleem Siddiqui, the threads are connecting him to Umar Gautam and also to Salahuddin Sheikh and this Hawala transactions.
Yes, that is what Anand ATS claims, that it has, strong evidences to prove and justify the arrest. Though there is always a very thin line between what is a legal conversion, what is illegal conversion, what is a forceful conversion. In this case, ATS Chief, Prashant Kumar clearly says that the person who has now been arrested, Kaleem Siddiqui, was clearly in violation of the norms, the legal provisions as far as the conversion should take place. He was in fact, coercing people into using illegal gotten wealth to persuade people into conversion. And his idea was to, try through this conversion and attain a long-term objective of trying to, create some sort of a demographical imbalance. That is what the clear-cut allegation from coming in from the ATS is. Yes, you are also right that, this arrest comes in as a fallout of earlier arrests which we have seen in June this year when, Umar Gautam and Jahangir Alam and others were arrested, not only from Uttar Pradesh, several towns across UP, but also few arrests were made from, other parts of the country. And in that case, if you recall, ATS has even written, the state government has written to the center that this case should be handed over to NIA for the probe, because it is not just a UP specific conversion racket that is going on. It is a pan-India conversion racket involving states like Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi and Maharashtra also. That NIA probe of course didn't happen till the moment, but ATS is clearly pursuing the case, and ATS Chief Prashant Kumar clearly saying that there are ample evidences which poured out of the ongoing investigation, the leads and the further testimonies being provided by people who have been converted, that on the basis of which the latest Kaleem Siddiqui has been arrested. Yes, it is also a fact that Kaleem Siddiqui has been openly into this task of conversion, propagating his religion for over more than 2 decades now. So question also we raised that why ATS never acted in the past. So so probably the one aspect to it could be that ATS and often functioning also takes place with the political intent or the sort of freedom which you get. So maybe ATS was enjoying more freedom at the moment. That's why these arrests took place. Political opposition says that it is not the case of freedom, but the political witch hunting and the fact that the BJP government in Uttar Pradesh wants to pursue certain agenda, and therefore these arrests have been made.
True, but are there likely to be more? Are there likely to be more arrests, and especially when there is when the cops are claiming there is this illicit money, even money laundering or the money coming in illegally up to 3 crore rupees, and it being used to fund certain outfits which are with the purpose to indoctrinate and to induce. Are there more arrests likely? Because this is an ongoing investigation. If my memory serves me right, since June this has been going on.
Yes, it has been going on June, and it was on June 20th that first arrest of Umar Gautam and Jahangir Alam were made. And yes, more arrests can take place. That has not been denied because it's an open investigation. We all know that though all those previously arrested accused are behind the bars and a charge sheet has not been filed. But now ATS will of course seek a custody on Kaleem Siddiqui as well, and depending upon his interrogation, more arrests and more facts can emerge out.
Well, thank you for your inputs, Pranshu, but stay on with us, because as we stay with Uttar Pradesh and the other development where postmortem reports point to death by hanging and asphyxiation, but is there much more to it than meets the eye? As the final rites on Mahant Narendra Giri were performed, a Bhu Samadhi has now been conducted after going through the rituals in Prayagraj. And as mystery continues over the death of Mahant Narendra Giri, main accused Anand Giri has been sent to 14-day in judicial custody. This after Anand Giri was produced before the Prayagraj court today amid the debate over the seer's death. CNN News 18 accessed Mahant Giri's autopsy report, and according to the report, only a V-shaped mark has been identified on the seer's body. The report also confirms that death was due to asphyxiation, suggesting the seer died by hanging. He committed suicide because the death is because of the impact of the rope or a body hanging by the rope tied around the neck. Mahant Giri's last rites also took place earlier this afternoon, and as for the Akhada Parampara, the body was committed to a Bhu Samadhi. That means buried under the ground in a particular position. It's either a Siddhasan or a Shavasana, and in this case we are given to understand it was a Shavasana, with all the Mahants of the various Akhadas and also Balbir Giri, who's been nominated by him as per that note as his successor and head of the Bagambari Mutt, also present there to conduct the rites. Pranshu Mishra is still with us, but first a quick report, a ground report.
हम बाघंबरी मठ के उस हिस्से में हैं जहां पर बताया जाता है इस कमरे में शव मिला था महंत नरेंद्र गिरी का। आप देख सकते हैं इसमें सरकारी सील लगी हुई है। इस कमरे को फिलहाल सील कर दिया गया। जैसा बताया जा रहा है कि शाम को 5 बजे जब कई बार फ़ोन करने के बाद महंत नरेंद्र गिरी का फ़ोन नहीं उठा है, तो उसके बाद उनके शिष्य आए हैं और उन्होंने इस दरवाजे को धक्का देकर खोला है। हालांकि प्राइमा फेसाई अगर ऊपर से देखा जाए तो कोई भी जाहिरा निशान ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि इसके ऊपर कोई फोर्स अप्लाई की गई होगी। आप देख सकते हैं कि फिलहाल तो ताला लगा दिया गया है, तो कुंडी और ताला दुरुस्त दिखाई दे रहा है, लेकिन इस दरवाजे को ऊपर से नीचे तक अगर देखा जाएगा तो कहीं से ऐसा कोई निशान नहीं लगता है कि इसको तोड़ा गया होगा। इसको तोड़ने के लिए काफ़ी मशक्क़त की गई होगी, ताकत लगाई गई होगी। इसी कमरे के अंदर बताया जाता है पंखे से लटका हुआ महंत नरेंद्र गिरी का शव मिला था, फिर रस्सी को काटकर उनका शव उतारा गया था। जो 3 उनके शिष्य बताए जाते हैं, सर्वेश, सुशील और धनंजय, उन्होंने अन्य शिष्यों की मदद से उनके शव को उतारा था। FIR में भी इन तीनों का नाम है, इन तीनों का जिक्र है। इस दरवाजे के ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा मशक्क़त नहीं की गई है, बहुत जोर आजमाइश नहीं की गई है जैसा कि कहा गया है। क्या वाकई ये दरवाज़ा अंदर से बंद था, अंदर कुंडी लगी हुई थी? ये अंदर जाकर ही साफ हो पाएगा, लेकिन फिलहाल पुलिस ने इस दरवाजे को सील कर दिया है।
अभी पूज्य महाराज जी की अभी आज पोस्टमार्टम हुआ है। अभी उनको संगम पर स्नान कराने के लिए ले जा रहे हैं। उसके बाद उन्हें भू समाधि दी जाएगी। मैं प्रयागराज का निवासी हूँ। पूज्य महाराज जी के प्रति श्रद्धा रखता था, इस प्रकार की घटना है तो उनको अंतिम विदा देने के लिए मैं यहाँ पर हूँ। महाराज जी आत्महत्या किए हैं कि आत्महत्या नहीं किए हैं, इस पहलू की भी जांच हो रही है। पत्र सही है कि गलत है, इस पहलू की भी जांच हो रही है। जो पहले के विवाद हैं उस विषय की भी जांच हो रही है। कौन जमीन खरीदा बेचा है उसकी भी जांच हो रही। पूज्य महाराज जी का जाना मेरे गले नहीं उतर रहा है। पूज्य महाराज जी आत्महत्या नहीं कर सकते, ये मैं महसूस करता हूं और बहुत सारे लोग महसूस करते हैं।
Keshav Prasad Maurya, somebody who's very close, is also not just a devotee but very closely attached, and he was there on Sunday. He spent a lot of time there. Pranshu Mishra and Amit Singh with us. Amit, before I come across to you, aap Prayagraj mein hai, Amit, I know that, and you were tracking the Antim Yatra. But Pranshu, there are so many unanswered questions, and Keshav Prasad Maurya himself has raised these questions. He says every aspect is going to be now investigated. So, along with Anand Giri, are the other accused, those who are also under detention and those who are also under the ambit of suspicion, are they also going to be thoroughly quizzed?
Well, you know, it's a very important point that the Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, even till this point in time, is not ready to believe that it's a case of pure suicide. So, you know, if doubts are being raised at such senior levels of the government, one can clearly assume that, you know, what sort of opinion do the Saint and Seer community has, and that's the reason why we also hear through our ground reports and, you know, feedbacks from the senior officials and politicians have been telling our viewers that, see, the entire suicide theory is immensely under a big question mark. Yes, the post-mortem report today says that there were no anti-mortem injuries, so and the cause of death was asphyxiation due to hanging. So it suggests that, you know, the hanging was probably voluntary. That is what the fact of anti-mortem injuries not being present there indicates. But having said that, see, there are still several unanswered questions. Whether the writing of that suicide letter is that of Naren Giri, point number 1. The point number 2, that someone who is in that mental state of mind to commit suicide, will he sit down to write a 14-page letter? Now, point number 3, it also proves, analyze the letter, it becomes very evident that letter has not been written in a one go. Probably it has been written over the days. So there are several unanswered questions, and that's the reason why opposition, Akhilesh Yadav and others have been demanding a judicial probe in this case, that too by a sitting judge of High Court, something which Yogi Adityanath as Chief Minister has not agreed to at the moment. The authorities say that, wait for the final investigation to be over. It is not, just the case has been closed. In case more leads will emerge out, the, subsequent charges would be added, more people's name could be added as an accused. So multiple interrogation, investigation is going on. But as of now, the fingers, the pace of investigation, we can say, seems to be suggesting that it is moving towards the suicide theory, and Anand Giri has emerged and is being seen as the prime suspect in the entire case.
Right, Pranshu, stay on with us. Just going across to Amit Singh. Amit, इससे पहले कि महंत नरेंद्र गिरी की अंतिम यात्रा के बारे में बात करें, was there some ruckus in court? Was there some exchange, fisticuffs? कुछ हाथापाई की खबर आई है? Is that true?
देखिए, जब पेश किया गया था आनंद गिरी को जिला अदालत में और डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट में जब उनको पेश किया गया था, और साथ ही साथ आद्य तिवारी को, तो उस वक्त कई वकील जो थे वो सीधे पहुंच गए आनंद गिरी के पास। उनका गुस्सा जो है आनंद गिरी के को वो दिखा रहे थे। तभी वहां पर पुलिस फोर्स वहां पर पहुंची। पुलिस फोर्स ने आनंद गिरी को बहुत ही मुश्किल से जिला अदालत से निकाल कर ले गई है। हाथापाई किसी भी तरीके से नहीं हुई है। आनंद गिरी बीच में थे, चारों तरफ से पुलिस वालों ने उन्हें सराउंड किया हुआ था, घेरा हुआ था, और उसके बाद आनंद गिरी को पुलिस किसी भी तरीके से यहां से निकाल कर ले गई थी। यानी प्रयागराज के वासियों में जो गुस्सा है, वो गुस्सा जिस तरीके से विवाद चल रहा था और वो अब सार्वजनिक हुआ है, और उस विवाद को लेकर, जमीन को लेकर विवाद हो या फिर पैसे को लेकर विवाद हो, गुरु पूर्णिमा के दिन आनंद गिरी अपने गुरु से मिलने के लिए नहीं पहुंचे। और जिस तरीके से सुसाइड नोट पर फिलहाल अभी तो सवाल उठा है, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे भी हैं जो ग्राउंड जीरो पे जो मानते हैं कि अगर सुसाइड नोट सच हुआ तो जिस तरीके से नाम उसमें लिखा हुआ है, उन लोगों को दंडित होना पड़ेगा। उन लोगों ने बहुत बड़ा अपराध किया है। और जो लोग भी महंत नरेंद्र गिरी को जानते थे, जिनसे वो पर्सनल टच रखते थे, वो कभी भरोसा नहीं कर रहे कि महंत नरेंद्र गिरी सुसाइड अटेम्प्ट कर सकते हैं। सुसाइड उन्होंने किया है, क्योंकि महंत नरेंद्र गिरी जो है दूसरे को मसलों को सुलझाते थे और बहुत आसानी से उसे सुलझाते थे, उन्हें आत्मविश्वास दिलाते थे। तो ऐसे में कोई महंत नरेंद्र गिरी को लेकर ऐसा नहीं सोच रहा है कि वो आत्महत्या कर रहे हैं। बहुत लोग तो अभी भी भरोसा नहीं कर रहे हैं। हालांकि इन्हीं सड़कों पे आज महंत नरेंद्र गिरी का पार्थिव शरीर पूरे नगर में घुमाया गया। चारों तरफ लोग उनका अंतिम दर्शन करने के लिए खड़े थे। लेकिन जैसे ही जिला अदालत में पेश किया गया आनंद गिरी और आद्य तिवारी, दोनों आरोपियों को पुलिस ने पेश किया और दोनों आरोपियों को 14 दिन की न्यायिक हिरासत में कोर्ट ने भेज दिया, यानी जेल में भेज दिया। आनंद दिल्ली
अमित मेरे पास समय कम है, मैं जल्द से ये जानना चाहूंगा, अजय सिपाही, मनीष शुक्ला और कुछ 6 और लोगों की जो गिरफ्तारी हुई है, उनसे भी सवाल जवाब किया जा रहा है। क्या उनको भी अब पुलिस रिमांड में या जुडिशियल कस्टडी में लिया जाएगा?
देखिए, अभी फिलहाल उनको कोर्ट में पेश नहीं किया गया है। पुलिस उनसे लगातार पूछताछ कर रही है और पुलिस जाहिर तौर पे जब जैसे उनकी गिरफ्तारी दिखाएगी उसके बाद अगले 24 घंटे के अंदर उन्हें जिला अदालत में पेश करना होगा। तो जाहिर तौर पे ये प्रोसीजर हो सकता है कि पुलिस उन्हें कल लेकर यहाँ पर पहुंचे। लेकिन जिस तरीके से लगातार सवाल उठ रहे हैं, लगातार पूछताछ जारी है। 15 लोगों को हरिद्वार में, आनंद इंपॉर्टेंट है, 15 लोगों को हरिद्वार में SIT ने फोन किया है और उन्हें प्रयागराज बुलाया है ताकि वो अपना बयान दर्ज करा पाए। जिन लोगों पर भी पुलिस को शक हो रहा है उन्हें तुरंत फोन किया जाता है, या फिर अगर पुलिस को लगता है कि फोन करने से वो बंदा फरार हो जाएगा तो पुलिस की टीम वहां उसको लेने के लिए चली जाती है। तो इस तरीके से ये जिस तरीके से
at least 15 more people have been summoned and asked to come to Prayagraj, and some of them being called from Haridwar also is what Amit Singh is saying. Pranshu and Amit, thank you very much for your updates. Have to move on here on the Nation at 5. And we said our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's currently en route to the United States, it's a very, very important trip between the 22nd and the 25th. Now, PM Narendra Modi is en route to the United States. He should land later this evening. It's a power-packed absolutely jam-packed 3-day visit. Prime Minister will hold a one-on-one meeting with the US President Joe Biden, a first since Biden assumed office. He will also take part in the first ever in-person Quad summit. And also on the agenda is a key address at the UNGA, as well as meetings with US Vice President Kamala Harris and CEOs of top companies, including Tim Cook.
Our Honorable Prime Minister will also meet Vice President Kamala Harris and discuss, amongst many other things, with the US administration and at the Quad, terrorism, critical and emerging technologies, cybersecurity, education, etc. This is a vindication of the last 7 years of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's foreign policy of keeping India first, nation first, कि आज on the global stage, under his leadership, India is playing a significant role in shaping the future of the world and shaping the future of the economy, trade and technology.
Well, it is a power-packed schedule, and all eyes will be on what is the position that the Quad takes and what is the shape that it takes. It's the first in-person meeting that is going to happen for the Quad members after there was this entire coming together of these nations to try and counter China. Maha Siddiqui is live from Washington, D.C. Maha, what's the buzz on ground? What's going to be the biggest focus?
Well, the biggest focus is, of course, going to be the Prime Minister's bilateral meeting, the first bilateral meeting that he'll be having with US President Joe Biden. And, of course, all eyes will then be on the Quad summit as well. This, again, will be the first in-person Quad summit, Anand, that will be held. And all the 4 leaders are going to be present in America. Of course, Joe Biden is already here. Prime Minister Modi is arriving at 6 p.m. In Washington, D.C. this evening. And after which, today there is just this COVID summit that is happening, the meeting that Joe Biden has announced. After which, tomorrow is when he will be meeting some business leaders, CEOs. He will be then day after tomorrow is when the biggest meetings are going to take place. That is 24th. Both the bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden that I was mentioning and the Quad summit. In both these meetings, there are very crucial issues that will come up. From India's side, of course, the issue of Afghanistan, the instability in the region, and whether or not US can bear upon Pakistan, to in fact ensure that the instability is not utilized by them to push terrorists into India. That is India's big concern, that Afghanistan could turn into a terror hotbed, that Pakistan, which has a vice-like grip over Taliban at the moment, could use this, in fact, to allow some of the terror groups that directly attack India, like LET and JEM, to target India further. That is point number 1. Point number 2 is about the issue of China. Now, that will feature, of course, in the Quad summit, and that is very important. And that is one of the reasons, Anand, why many people believe that President Biden actually wanted to conduct the Quad summit, the in-person summit, despite the COVID figures here in America. The numbers are very high. America is seeing record number of hospitalizations. But despite all these challenges, he is organizing, that is, America is organizing this Quad in-person summit, largely to take away the focus back to China, away from Afghanistan, because the US president has been criticized heavily now for the pullout of troops from Afghanistan in a manner in which it allowed the Taliban to get an upper hand. So the focus comes back to China again. And what is the focus largely going to be here is also, in fact, indicating what we have seen in the last couple of weeks. First of all, there was the first 2+2 security dialogue with Australia, 2+2 dialogue rather with Australia that India had about 10 days ago. And there has been an announcement of a military alliance called the AUKUS between US, UK and Australia. Right. So that is also focusing on Indo-Pacific. And then you have the Quad. So clearly the idea is to now once again start countering and cornering China. What we can expect on the Quad front is because this is not a military alliance, we will see other steps that will be taken. First of all countries will reiterate the need for a free, open, inclusive, rules-based Indo-Pacific, and then we'll see some movement forward in countering China's vaccine diplomacy as well. So this vaccine initiative that the Quad had taken, where Johnson & Johnson's vaccines were to be manufactured by Biological E in India, we are likely to see some forward movement in that as well. 1 billion doses have to be rolled out by 2022 for Indo-Pacific countries.
True. Now, if you look at AUKUS could also be a military solution, because the fact is that Australia needs, if it has to thwart the threat of the Chinese, and they are going to bear the brunt, and they borne the brunt also for taking a very strong position against China. They need the UK and the United States to empower them with nuclear-powered submarines, because their submarine deal with France is going to take 17 years. They don't have that kind of time. The other aspect is in terms of trade. India has to become a very strong manufacturing hub in the region as an alternative to other nations. And for that, Quad comes into play. India is also engaging with Japan and France in the JFI. All of these dynamics all actually point towards a very fluid, multilateral kind of an equation. You think this will take shape, and will India be able to drive this?
Trade is a very important aspect in being able to counter China. And most countries and most companies have now realized that their dependence on China for manufacturing needs to be now revised. They can't continue to be held hostage by one country, because all their manufacturing units or this entire sector is dependent on China. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that. Can India realistically be an alternative or option as far as manufacturing is concerned? Yes, India is hopeful that it can do it. What about the other countries? They believe that there could be certain, hiccups that India could face. For instance, in terms of logistics, land acquisition and other aspects are difficult in India. However, India has a market, a sizable market. It's an emerging market. And therefore, as opposed to many other countries in Southeast Asia, which could be an alternative as well, for instance, Vietnam, India does have a point here. It scores above many of those countries.
Right.
And that is what India needs to leverage now. This is the sense that one has been getting over the last many months now.
True.
Now, that is why we are likely to see the Prime Minister, in fact, the Prime Minister is meeting some of the top CEOs tomorrow, that is 23rd of September. And it is in this business meeting that what my sources have told me, that many of the companies are going to, in fact, express the need for what they see as a future for manufacturing in India, and what are the requirements likely to be from India on that count. So one thing is clear, that India does want to leverage this gap that has been created, this trust gap, if I can put it that way, with China. India wants to leverage that. How soon can it leverage is something that India will have to look at.
True,
We are seeing some
because there are a recent slew of announcements which were made in the textile sector with drones and in manufacturing, where it was production-linked incentives which were given. As far as infrastructure, to try and incentivize infrastructure building, and to also give big companies, big corporations and big funds returns. There have been a slew of announcements that have been made in the run-up to this engagement, because this is critical. Unless India is identified as a manufacturing hub and there is manufacturing here, it's not going to happen. And on the other hand, final question, Maha, unless India is stable and secure, it's not going to be able to encourage trade and setting up of multiple businesses and investments in our country. So there are two ways where India has to work, and perhaps both these dimensions will play over each other when Quad is discussed, when regional security is discussed, and geopolitics is discussed.
Absolutely. India has concerns about security, but they are largely limited, Anand, even in the context of Afghanistan, mostly to some of the areas or regions in India which are more prone to security aspect. The rest of the country, is by and large a safe country, a stable country in which any growth is possible. But if you talk about the issue of instability in the region, and because of Afghanistan, I understand that your question alludes to that.
Yes.
That is going to be a very critical discussion, and this is not going to be limited only to a discussion in the Quad. This will come up in the bilateral meeting with President Biden as well, because India has specific concerns, as I pointed out, with regards to two terror organizations, with regards to UN proscribed terrorists becoming members of the government in the Taliban regime, with the Haqqani network and at least two proscribed terrorists from there gaining ministerial posts as well.
Right.
All these are very critical for India. India would want some sort of response from the United States because US is continuing to engage with Pakistan. We have seen the CIA chief going and meeting the Pakistan army chief as well, and pictures were released of that as well too. So
Right.
India would want to know from US, can US bear upon Pakistan to ensure that the Indian subcontinent is not destabilized and India is not destabilized because of these activities in Afghanistan? This is a
Absolutely.
concern not specific to India. Other countries have the concern about terrorism too emanating from Afghanistan. China, interestingly, again, ETIM group is a problem for them as well, even for many of the Central Asian countries bordering Afghanistan, and therefore for Moscow as well. So India's concerns very legitimate. India will raise this issue in America.
Absolutely, and to clip the wings of Pakistan is important, even also to try and offer a stumbling block to the Chinese aggression and its expansionism. There are multiple layers within layers, and Maha Siddiqui in about 2 hours from now will be live with a special coverage decoding PM Modi's America visit. Thanks for now, Maha. You'll be joining us live from Washington, D.C. at 7:27 p.m. For the moment, moving on here on The Nation at 5, and let's cue up what happened with SAARC. And after the SAARC meet was cancelled, the Taliban has now appointed Suhail Shaheen as its ambassador to the United Nations. The move is being seen as Taliban's effort to legitimize its rule in Afghanistan. The SAARC meeting was cancelled after Pakistan demanded Taliban representative be present for talks representing Afghanistan. India and almost all the other nations opposed the proposal, and the meeting was called off. India and other nations are also opposing Taliban's bid for inclusion into the United Nations, considering most nations are yet to officially recognize this dispensation. We'll try and go across to Shailendra Wangu for more details, but frankly, the fact is that this is not a legitimate government. This is a forceful takeover which has happened. These are all UN proscribed terrorists. They are not taken out of the proscription list too. Nations have announced bounties on those who have currently awarded themselves ministerial positions and responsibilities of running the entire country in Afghanistan. They are not there exercising or representing the will of the Afghan people because they are not elected. They have been placed there. They are clearly looking as puppets at the hands of an establishment in a neighboring country. शैलेंद्र वांगू now joining us with more details. शैलेंद्र वांगू, तो ये सार्क मीट तो कैंसिल हुई क्योंकि तालिबान की पैरवी कर रहा था पाकिस्तान. अब तालिबान का यूएन में होना ये भी कई देशों को नागवारा है.
देखिए, तालिबान को लेकर किसी भी देश ने अब तक रिकॉग्निशन की बात नहीं की है और ऐसे में पाकिस्तान लगातार वकालत कर रहा है तालिबान की. और सार्क समिट जहां पर इस बात पर सहमति बन गई थी कि एक एम्प्टी चेयर वहां पर हो सकती है, लेकिन पाकिस्तान ये बात नहीं माना और लगातार इंसिस्ट कर रहा था कि तालिबान का रिप्रेजेंटेशन वहां पर होना चाहिए. इसी बीच तालिबान की तरफ से एक चिट्ठी भी लिखी गई है यूएन के सेक्रेटरी जनरल को, जिसमें उन्होंने कहा है कि तालिबान का नुमाइंदा भी, उनका रिप्रेजेंटेटिव भी यूएनजी को एड्रेस करना चाहता है और सुहेल शाहीन को वो परमानेंट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव बनाना चाहता है. तो ऐसे में लगातार जो इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म पे पाकिस्तान लगातार पैरवी कर रहा है तालिबान की, ये तो साफ दिखाता है कि जिस सरकार को उसने वहां पे एस्टैब्लिश किया है, अब उस सरकार के लिए दरवाजे भी पाकिस्तान खोलने की कोशिश कर रहा है. लेकिन सार्क कंट्रीज इसमें एकजुट हैं कि आतंकवाद को लेकर पहले भी 2016 के बाद से सभी कंट्रीज ने कहा है कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर अगला सार्क समिट नहीं होना चाहिए और इस बात को लेकर भी कि तालिबान को चेयर मिलनी चाहिए इस टेबल पर, इस पर भी बाकी जो कंट्रीज हैं, मेंबर कंट्रीज हैं, वो सहमत नहीं हुए, जिसमें भारत भी शामिल है. तो ऐसे में आखिरकार इस फॉरेन मिनिस्टर्स मीट जो थी सार्क की होने वाली 25 सितंबर को, उसको रद्द करना पड़ा.
Shailendra Wangu, thank you for your inputs. Have to take a very short break, but on the way out, we had to share this with you. K-pop superstars BTS became the first music band ever to perform at the UNGA, rendering permission to dance as their message and welcome to the world. The musical performance saw the band singing in the General Assembly Hall and then moving to the lobby.